assuming today you guys are going to roll a lot of high numbers,
A lot of.
achieve high numbers, achieve greatness. It's going to be fabulous.
Absolutely.
And the whole plot is going to be like going to the dentist, Eberron style. Actually, it's not.
Oh,
But that's a
she's
thought.
already got planned.
That's a thought for the future. I'm just trying to kind of plant the idea that I have something planned so that you're going to believe that whatever happens was totally on purpose.
Yeah.
Is the reason there's a puffin on this map because that was what I used as Steve's
That was my spiritual hammer.
That's your spiritual hammer? Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right, because Stiiv isn't a cleric. Okay. And there's 2 tentacles. What?
I was just about to say why the 2 tentacles. They've been breeding while we've been
I
gone.
think one is actually the real token and the other one is like another token that maybe I added. And anyway, we're out of combat, so I'm going to remove the extraneous portions. Except the puffin because I like him. Have you successfully reconnected?
I have. I
think-
thought you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry.
But to like the point of it functions.
I can click on my character sheet and change tabs, and I found me on the map.
Okay, that's good.
I can spin. See?
Ooh, okay, well if you can spin, then I feel like we're physically, if not emotionally, prepared to begin. And if Thulkrin gets in the chopper, then you know, he can just show up. It'll be fine. Last week, y'all did stuff. I might have awarded some XP, even though we aren't really technically leveling by XP anymore. It's more milestone.
Even though
We're still not we're not leveling by XP.
Uh-huh.
I award you XP just to kind of give me an idea of where you are. Yeah. So you get numbers anyhow. I don't know if you care.
Okay.
yay numbers.
Some people like numbers going up. So it was really weird last time. Yeah, y'all split the party. A bunch of you kind of had this trap laid for the smuggler ship for the incoming party. You had your kind of manservant, Rocky. You kind of had him up in the upstairs window doing lantern signals on the lookout for the smuggler's ship. And then you kind of had this chain of messaging. So when they were spotted, you guys all took your places. You waited for some smugglers to show up in the caves. And then you sent Shaefira off on her own, disguised as one of the smugglers named Jordy, that you guys, I guess, killed previously.
Maybe.
Maybe killed him a
Don't
little
remember.
bit. So she was disguised as Jordy, and she goes solo mission with some barrels of gunpowder disguised as brandy cask, disguised as a gift from San Belay, the necromancer that you have also killed twice. And she manages to hoodwink her way aboard the ship. She managed to get the barrels, put into the cargo bay. Even though they got wet, she managed to set one of them on fire. And then she also managed to do that without anybody noticing. She dove over the side of the boat just as it exploded. So you sunk the smuggler's vessel. And so not only did you sink the smuggler's vessel, but Shaefira managed to get on board the jolly boat again and ride back with some of the survivors. That included the captain of the smuggler's ship and his deck mage. Or deck wizard, I can't remember what the technical term was.
Wizard, I think it was, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was a guy who knew magic. He like
levitating.
floated and stuff.
Yes,
yeah.
Yes.
And she managed to keep up her guise as Jordy, the smuggler. until you got back to this cavern, to the caves beneath your haunted house that you guys own. And so you got to do a double ambush. Two different sets of smugglers coming into these caves. You managed to get the jump on them, kind of deceived them with varying degrees of success once they got into the caves. But you killed a bunch of people. Lots of smugglers are dead. In the process, Shaefira also rescued a sea elf that seemed to have been a prisoner aboard the sinking ship. Uh, she unlocked his manacles and kind of came up with kind of like a plan that sort of worked to help set him free, and he swam along underneath the jolly boat as you headed towards the house. And once the dust settled and all the blood was spilt, the sea elf fell to his knees in front of Kerithlana and addressed her as his queen.
Yeah, I totally forgot that.
Forgot that.
And that's where we left off last time. Smuggler's dead, boat sunk,
In the presence of royalty.
sea elf dude prostrate before Kerithlana. Like she is in charge of something. So I guess the first question is, what does Kerithlana do?
There's a lot of embarrassed blinking going on, and then she says in Sea Elvish, yeah, not in front of the landwalkers, and you do this now, and you do this here. I just really sort of glare at him.
And he gets back up to his feet, and he kind of backs away a little bit slowly, trying to not turn his back on you.
Very important.
And he offers his thanks to Shaefira, who has now, I think we've seen her drop her Jordiness
Yes.
over the
He's
course
very
of
welcome.
excitement. And he says he is not sure what has happened. My name is Oceanus. I do not know what has happened. But suddenly the vessel sank and the walls of the ship where I was imprisoned cracked open and I was able to swim free.
How long had you been on the boat?
It's been many of a day since I've seen any sort of sunlight. At least 3 times they brought some kind of foul porridge to feed me. But I spent most of my time chained in a dark room that had no visibility.
Is that foul as in horrible or foul as in chicken?
It was inedible.
Okay.
Do you have any nice seaweed? Bit of shellfish?
I've got jam
Jam?
and
Bacon?
toast.
Toast?
Mm.
And he looks
Have
at
you got any of
Kerithlana.
that-
Are these food?
They're both. They are. They're both good. Have you got any of that black jam that tastes of fish? Comes from
I don't
comes
think
from a
we
fish.
got
It's
any
got a
of that.
yeah, it's got a funny name.
Caviar?
Is it
That's the
the egg jam?
Egg jam.
Ugh.
It's the best jam. For sea elves.
I'll check him over for injuries as well. See if there's anything. Toward.
While Kerithlana's doing that, Kymir is going to wander over to Shaefira and say, "You blew up the ship." I'm going to say, "You blew up the ship, didn't you?"
I did.
I knew you would. Nice.
Oh, what were you doing the medicine for? I'm sorry.
The sea elf, just to check that he's all right.
Oh yes, he does. He does have some wounds. He's not in dire straits, but you can see that he's been beaten and abused somewhat, and he's I'm not going to say dehydrated, but he hasn't eaten.
So,
So-
we'll make sure that he's had basic sustenance and any sort of first aidy things that I can do, I will do.
Now you've caught up kind of with Shaefira as to how her end of the plan went.
Yeah.
Are you going to make your way back to the house from the caves? Or are you just hanging out in the caves with Rocky?
I would
Yeah, I mean, well, loot the bodies. Is there
Oh
anything
yes,
useful?
loot. Mm.
Is there any loot?
Did the
Most
DM
of
think
these
about it?
guys. I forgot about that question. Most of
Sorry.
these guys are just carrying their standard little knives and whatnot.
Okay.
But let me look, because I'm not sure if the captain or the wizard had anything of interest. But you can already tell the way this is going that they probably didn't have anything that was adventure dependent.
I think that's what I'm bothered about, really.
Surprise! And you sunk a lot of the other stuff. Everything
Okay.
else is exploded. Explodified. It's very wet now. In the depths.
What do we want to do? Do we just pile him into a corner, or I feel bad just chucking him back into the sea, but I suppose someone will
Well, yeah,
eat him.
someone will eat them.
Because you've got about, what, 8 bodies? None of them are decaying rapidly. You've already confirmed that there's no more funky Sanbalay necromancy stuff going on. You do
Wayne-
have bodies. Now, I don't know. You might... I mean...
That giant octopus is still out there somewhere. He might need food.
True. Now, you were kind of doing this for Anders Solmar on the council.
Oh yeah, do we need to prove that we've killed a bunch of smugglers?
So I don't know if you want to, like, hand over the captain's body. And from what you've learned from Rocky is most of the smugglers who were aboard the actual vessel were not from Saltmarsh. The people who were camped out here before, the ones that you killed, a lot of them were Saltmarsh locals. Like Jordy and Ray Bob.
So we're probably better off getting Anders to come here and have a look at the bodies rather than parading them through town, just in case.
That's a good idea. Well, we could go settle. We've still got them two
there-
guards upstairs by the cannon.
Yeah, and there is the wagon that they brought the cannon on.
So we could
So we
get
could
them
get
to
him
go
to
back and
take
get
it
him.
back. Yeah, take that
Oh.
back to Anders because we haven't used it, have we?
Or we could get the bodies on the wagon if it's covered and
Yeah,
take them back.
it is covered.
Yeah.
Because it used a covered wagon to kind of hide the fact that a cannon was moving through town.
Okay, what about Kerithlana's new friend / subject?
Kind of, he's trying to be a little bit circumspect now that he's been corrected previously by Kerithlana about being openly addressing her as Your Majesty. So everybody who's not Kerithlana, roll a perception check.
Blimey.
Oh, goodness. You guys with your perceptiveness.
Something because we've not been on for 2 weeks.
So he's trying, the sea elf named Oceanus is trying to sort of whisper under his breath to Kerithlana, sotto voce. But I guess he's just too fancy for that, because you guys clearly overhear that he says, Your Majesty, the time must be nigh, and are you back because the terror below is returning? Has the time come for you to battle that which lurks below?
He really is a twonk, isn't he?
I guess I'm going to exchange glances with Shaefira, but obviously we'll have seen Kerithlana sort of like berate him. So, do we want to raise it with her?
No,
or do
I
we
think
wanna
we
be...
should just be quiet and.
It's like for thousands
let-
of years we have waited for this time that they spoke
Oh,
of.
he's just going on and on, isn't he?
Yes.
I'm not understanding basic sea Elvish saying, why are you doing this in front of them now? Do I have a clue what he's actually on about?
No. You do not. You have no clue. You're not actually a sea queen.
No.
No. But he seems to, there's something about you that he's recognizing that you are the return of this Sea Queen figure that his people speak of. He's just assuming that you're this person.
Okay, well, I'll take the crown off and I'll plonk it on his head, giggle, and then run off.
And he's like, what? He's utterly confused. He's like, my liege, the sacred crown, what? On my head? What does this mean?
It means that you're the second person in about 3 weeks to have found this and put it on.
What you're saying that you are not, you're not the Sea Queen, the Fairy Queen.
I really wasn't the last time I checked.
You've never saved Manan from an aboleth.
Who from a what now?
And he sighs. Thousands of years ago, our elven settlement of Manan was torn beneath the water by an aboleth, and then a fairy queen came from the Feywild wearing the crown that you had on your head and it's now on my head, and, well, defeated it. But they said that one day the creature may return, and she would have to return and do battle again. And I thought, well, seeing the crown on your head, that meant that time was nigh.
Okay, so have you heard any other evidence that the aboleth's returned?
Well, there's always churning. There's stories of a giant octopus doing wild things.
Okay,
Yep,
but
seen that.
a giant octopus is not an aboleth, is it?
There are the hags, the scum sisters. They wreak havoc between, well, around Manan.
It's not looking like the evidence is very strong, is it? And somebody wearing a hat?
And
They're
then
just
there's
wearing
the
a hat, too.
people who disappear without any explanation.
Ah,
We just assume the water, has taken them back, the things from the depth.
well, that happens sometimes. Doesn't necessarily mean I'm royalty, or that you're royalty
Stiiv!
now that you're wearing the hat.
Stiiv seems to be listening a little bit, but not staying really
Seems
close to
be
the
you broke up again,
conversation.
sorry.
But he keeps hearing references to things in the deeps, and he seems to kind of make this little face like he's whistling. Do-do-do-do-do-do-do.
Has he got a bad case of innocence?
He has a bad case of innocence. And so Oceanus, he takes the crown off his head too, and he's like, perhaps I should take this back to Manon. And
No, dude. I'm going to grab it off him and give it back to Kerithlana. We won that fair and square.
where did you find it? If I may ask.
Does anyone remember? I know I should know, but I don't.
Did we loot it from somewhere?
It was
I
that
thought we
initial sinking ship that when you
Yeah,
guys were
we did it from
captured.
the original one. It was in the chest in the captain's cabin, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was in the chest in the captain's cabin, and
Blimey.
Mars Lamont's chest, along with the deed to this house you now own.
Right.
So we can rattle that back to him and give him the name of the ship that it was on as well. Golden
So-
Hook. Is that the Golden Hook?
Yes,
think
it
so.
was the Golden Hook.
Hey.
See, I blame it on the fact that my notes crashed when I was trying to update them, and all I get now is null when I open.
So,
Oh.
Oceanus, while you were kind of catching up, talking about what happened and blowing up the ship and stuff and questioning him about how long he was there, he does say that that the smuggler ship traveled in the waters not too far away from Manon. And while he's not currently familiar with where you are, he knows that they've spotted this ship in the waters near his village, and he was dispatched to follow them, and he did a very bad job, and they captured him. He knows that the ship did stop in one other place before it hit open sea, And the only thing that he heard the entire time while he was chained in the ship's hull in a windowless compartment was when they stopped, there was some talk about prisoners and that they were destined for Firewatch. And he overheard that because the place where he was held, he thinks it was near the captain's quarters, and there was a shared wall.
Was he the only sea elf on board?
Yes, as far as he knows, he was. He
Okay.
thinks there were some other people that they talked about having other prisoners, other um, captives that were destined for Firewatch. He doesn't know what a Firewatch is.
Do we know? Do we know if it's something? Is it a place? Is it an event?
Everybody roll history.
So I'd look
There
at
we
Stiiv
go.
because he's in the. Wow. Ooh. I rolled a 20.
Okay,
You did.
you rolled a 20, Kymir. At one point, when you were doing your studies at the monastery, the Way of the Broken Code, you remembered that there was talk of another monastery that was once on an island called Firewatch that was in the seas far to the northeast.
Do I
But
know why it was called Firewatch? Was it like is
no.
it volcanic?
There's no story behind that. You know that there was a monastery, and you know that hundreds of years ago it seemed to be lost at some point during the last war.
Right.
I said hundreds of years ago, but the last war was not hundreds of years ago. It was like, the past century.
Yeah.
But it's been several generations that, as far as you know, the monastery of Firewatch was considered an old, abandoned, lost place.
Okay, so I'm gonna share that with the party. That's all I know about Firewatch, and I've got no idea if this is referring to the same thing. Although I suppose it's possible if we're in that area.
Oh, I was
We
checking
don't
to
know
see if
whether
you had any. Yeah, no loot. Let me just confirm there's no loot. There's no loot that I've been able to find that you would have been able to get off of the bodies. You asked him about the lizard folk that you saw swimming away from the ship, Shaefira, and he doesn't know anything about lizard folk. Like, having to do with the ship. He does know that there is a tribe of lizard folk that in recent months have set up a camp to the west of where Manon is. They're called like the Bloodroot tribe, he says. He doesn't know if those are the same lizard folk though. And he's very curious that that they were willingly on the ship with smugglers, because as far as he know, they're generally all right for lizard folk.
So they weren't captives then.
He doesn't know if they were captives, but he hasn't heard of any lizard folk prisoners.
And do we know what Manon is? Does Kerithlana know? Is this like the sea elf city, another island? Have you
Well,
told us this in the past and I've forgotten because I drink too much?
no, I haven't mentioned this before. He's told you that it's an outpost of sea elves that used to be on dry land, but was through encountering this aboleth, the thousands of years ago, the town was for the most part submerged, and that's kind of how their origin story of how they became sea elves more than just normal elves. They adapted to living with the
Okay.
water. But these are sea elves. They're like, it's like they don't know. Not all sea elves know each other. And Kerithlana is from like she's West Coast,
Right.
so her people are way back in the Eldeen Reaches. They don't they don't know, and I'm assuming Kerithlana doesn't really care about these East Coast sea elves. But you have this one now. He's not quite sure where you are and where exactly it is in relation to where he lives. So he's curious about what you know about the smugglers and what they're up to.
He's
So that
curious
about the smugglers, what do you know about the smugglers, and you know, what should he go back to his people? What kind of information should he bring back to his people about the situation?
Well, I guess we tell him that we've been asked to sort them out because they've been causing trouble in the area.
Do you think
I
the
mean,
lizard folk were prisoners?
we're not.
What? If they swam away freely with no shackles or whatever, because he had his shackles still on it.
Yeah, he was shackled.
when-
Yeah.
So I reckon if they didn't have any shackles on, I don't think they were captives.
And
they're probably
was it-
mercenaries rather than.
yeah, didn't Rocky? Was it Rocky who told us that they had some dealings with the lizard folk here?
Yeah, you
So-
ran into somebody. I don't know if it was Rocky or if it was a guy you questioned that Stiiv later killed. There was that thing where you were questioning a guy and then Stiiv just murderized him. I
Be
think
more suspicious of that.
I think there was something about a shipment of spears or something that was in the cave here that was
yeah,
intended
about
for lizard
providing
folk.
weapons for them. Yeah. Although that could just have been trading with the lizard folk because the lizard folk knew that these guys wouldn't ask questions. So we don't know whether they're
But-
in cahoots.
You do know they're stockpiling weapons, or they were trying to stockpile weapons.
Yes.
Do you tell this to Oceanus?
Oh, I don't want to start some kind of war. I think it's to tell him just in case they are planning anything. You know, I don't think it's fair to just let this tribe of sea elves be pounced on unknowingly.
He says that normally most of the problems they've had, that they're threats that the sea elves know of, typically are the Sawagan that roam the seas along the coastline, and sometimes they go inland, but they're always a problem on the sea area. Pirates and smugglers, of course. Pirates being the real problem. The Scum Sisters, the hags that I mentioned before. It's apparently three sisters. They're like literal sisters, and they're halflings. And there are some Minotaur pirates that are the worst pirates in the area. And they often try to raid the village, and so between the Swagan and the Minotaurs, they have to fight them off the most. But they have not had problems with the lizard folk up till now, but it does concern him that they might be stockpiling weapons, because the previous assumption was that they were quite peaceable. But they also don't know why the lizard folk set up camp there recently, because it's only been a year since they appeared.
And do they know where they came from?
No,
Right.
it's
And
just
have
like
they had any other dealings with them, like trading or anything, or is it just they just know that?
it's kind of like they're very distant acquaintances. Like there haven't been conflict with the lizard folk. It's kind of like that spotting them along the coast kind of thing, to, you know, say 30 miles west of Manon. They'll be like, oh, they're lizard folk, and everybody kind of nods to each other politely and goes on their own way. But they haven't like sat down and had hug talks or had dinner or anything like that. Nobody's played 3-card ante, gotten drunk in the tavern together, so They don't know very much. It's kind of speculation about what the lizard folk are really on about and their intentions. But he is concerned that they're gathering weapons.
Okay. I mean, I suppose the thing to point out is we don't know why they're gathering weapons. It doesn't necessarily mean they're planning anything. If they've only just appeared, they could be running from something, and they could be expecting trouble to chase them.
So where am I now? Do you know where we are in relation to the lizard folks, to their outpost?
No.
Have we got a map?
I've been looking for my Saltmarsh map.
You've got a city map, I think.
Yeah, I don't think we've got an area map, have we?
There was kind of an area map. You know that at one point I shared you with one. I don't think I have that stuff marked on there about where, lizard camp here.
Yeah, exactly. And I've just been having a quick Google, and I can't
What-
find.
What you know is Saltmarsh is kind of like on the east coast of northeast Kabara, the country in Eberron. You know that to the north of Saltmarsh is a swampy area, the Basura Swamp. I can't remember how much you actually learned from Justice about his personal situation. Because I know we covered some stuff, but I can't remember if you guys are privy to any of it or if it's just, Josdes knows this. But since he's done a flip because he got his letter from Queen Othokent in the night and went off to do something, some kind of mission for her, of which you know no details. You know that your friend left to do something for, I guess, the leader of some lizard folk in the area. So you at least know that they're in the area somewhere.
Right.
Okay, so if they're collecting weapons, then as you say, it could be that they've settled here and they've got something chasing them that they need to defend themselves. Alternately, it could be that they are massing to attack the human settlement that's here.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we need to be quite careful on how we play this so we don't accidentally start a war.
You
Agreed.
know that also, I mean, at least from your interactions with Anders, he's stockpiled weapons. But the general talk is, the idea is that the town always is ready for that day they expect that pirates try to really raid the town and they have to fight them off. Up till now, it's usually been more like water skirmishes or individual ship-going vessels have had to fight off pirates. Or there have been times where they've had kind of military missions that have taken the fight to them. Everybody got disconnected. I'm disconnected. All right, can you hear me now?
Yep.
My internet farted. Okay, so where did I leave off?
Military missions.
So sometimes they have taken military missions to raid places and try to fight off pirates and basically take them out where their hideout is. But those are few and far between. Because Josdes aided in one of the most recent examples of that, and while they made it out alive, it didn't fare so well for the Saltmarsh militia, so they don't do that often. But the night has passed. You guys have managed to survive and sink this smuggler ship. The sun is getting ready to rise. Other than the couple barrels of additional brandy that were on the jelly boat as they made their way into the caves, of which I think there were only 6 that they salvaged. I don't know. I think I made a note of how many there were.
I think
Yeah,
we
6
could
more
fit-
barrels
yeah.
of brandy were on the boat when sinking stuff started happening and people piled on the boat taking up the rest of the space. So everything else that was on board that ship sank or explodified to the depths below. You have 6 more barrels of brandy. You have the cargo that you've already purloined off of the smugglers before. You have 8 bodies. You have rifled through their pockets, etc., and you don't find any evidence of any smuggler, like secret notes and ha ha ha. You know, this is who our big boss is. Please don't tell Ender Solmar or anything like that in their pockets. But you do have bodies.
Okay.
And they're in fairly good condition. So perhaps if these pirates are known, maybe they'll be recognized. I don't know.
Yeah, I suppose that's a good point, isn't it? I mean, oh, see, that's the other thing. Do we want to take them all into town? Will that cause trouble if they are recognised and they belong to the town for the families involved?
Well, Rocky's already told you that he doesn't recognize any of these guys. Like,
Right, okay.
these guys, as far as he knows, aren't locals. They're pirates.
Yeah, I'd still be circumspect with them. Yeah, either getting Anders here so we don't have to worry about transporting them so that he can have a look and verify everything, or we take them under a tarp in the cart to Anders.
Yeah.
It's probably easier to get him here than the other way
So,
around.
shall I just run up and tell one of them guards by the cannon to go get him? Do we want to send the cannon back? Or do we just want to get him up here as quick as possible, so tell him?
Well,
Get him here so that he can look at the bodies. And while that's going on, then you can sort out the cannon and what goes on with the cannon. But moving the cannon would be slow.
Yeah.
So
that's what
while
I'm
you're
thinking.
talking about
Yeah.
this, you're talking about this over breakfast, basically. Chef Perkins is doing you up some more fried squid and waffles.
I
There-
should keep the elf happy.
There's some hash browns and stuff.
Are you going to have some tasty bacon as well, Kymir?
Some tasty bacon.
Why? Is my hit points crap?
You're slightly dinged.
Oh, I am. Yes. I will have some tasty bacon.
How'd you get dinged? Okay, so there's 2 servings of tasty bacon that Chef Perkins has included with the food that he served because he knows that you guys are really into this stuff.
I've got 4 in my backpack.
Do you now?
Yeah. Right. 1d4 plus 1. Right.
Somebody is a hoarder.
Do like me bacon. Right. So
Okay.
that's 4.
Oh wait, there are already 2 tasty bacons in the party sheet, so I'm just gonna leave those 2 tasty bacons in your party inventory. The 6 casks of brandy that you purloined are already in there, and I guess I put a few pieces of incidental gold and silver that you did rifle off the bodies.
Okay. I've got a ton of gold, but I don't know what to do with.
Right, so we can give some to Rocky.
That's a good idea. Can we use it to pay Rocky and Chef Perkins for a bit?
Yeah.
And
I thought you
give them.
I thought you paid them because I put it on the calendar.
We did, but I mean, if we can pay them another month in advance, that means we don't have to worry about it. Or we give them it to stock up the larder.
Yeah, you can give it to them to stock up the larder. They are paid for another good month. I think their wages are something like 70 gold all total per month.
Right. Then yeah, let's just give them it to say get some more stuff.
Squid money and spicy syrup money and
Yeah, exactly.
Blew it all on cephalopods. It was terrible.
non-magical jam money.
More butter.
Steve's like, no yam casserole, please. No yam casserole. So over breakfast, you're talking about all this. Oceanus, the sea elf, he's mainly focusing on the fried squid. He's not so sure about the waffles.
Both good.
But the fried squid seems a-okay.
I'll swap my squid for his waffles.
You can have double waffles.
Yes.
Carve up.
I'm not a calamari fan.
And over breakfast, you have decided that you're going to send one of the guards, to just fetch Anders. Do I have that right?
Yep.
Yeah.
So you've sent off one of the guards,
I'll
And
give the other one breakfast.
and it doesn't take very long. The sun is up now. Birds are tweeting in the sky. You've had a nice repast. Maybe half an hour, 45 minutes passes, and the guard comes running back on his own, but he has a note for you. And it's from Anders, and he says, something terrible has happened at the docks. You should come see this. Gellin Primewater is dead.
It wasn't us. We were busy doing something else. Oh dear.
It weren't you.
No, it wasn't us. Oh, unless he was on the ship. Oh crap.
But if he was on the ship, he'd be at the bottom of the sea.
No, he could have drowned and got, floated in. He could have tried to swim for shore and drowned on the. We should probably go find it. Can we ask the guard? Does he know how Gallon died?
I couldn't get close enough. There's a crowd. Word got to. I went to the city council building, the town council. It's not a city, it's a town. I went to the town council building to get Anders, and he was already on his way because word had reached him. But there was a huge crowd. Have you been to one of our local parties?
Yeah.
You know how the crowds always surround Gellin's house and how he has the balcony?
Yeah.
Well, the crowds were that thick this morning. People trying to get an eye on what's happened, and I thought you wanted me to hurry, so I didn't, lull about trying to get my eyes on exactly what the scene was.
Are you sure they weren't just playing claw pong?
No. All of the counselors were headed to the scene, since one of their own has reportedly fallen.
Okay.
I guess we go.
And look, well, to be fair, Geordie blew up the ship. It wasn't us.
And tragically perished as well.
Yes.
Yes, sacrificed in the.
So, what are you going to do with the bodies that you have?
Oh, I think we should maybe just leave them for a bit, because if we take them to town now, everybody's going to know that we had something to do with.
Yeah, but if we
Somewhere.
stick them in the back of the thing, the cart. Oh,
Yeah, but there'll be some nosy git that wants to look under it.
All right, Kerithlana, you are the deciding vote.
Where is the trust?
There is none.
Like, I'm going to just automatically have a nosy git peek in your wagon.
Nice. I think we should leave the bodies. We trust Rocky.
They'll
Yeah.
leave them here.
Yeah.
All right, and then I shall go with the majority. Okay, so we pile the bodies up in a corner. What about Oceanus? Are we going to tell him?
Are they like in the wine? Are they like piled up in the wine cellar now or something, or the scullery?
Well, we don't want to.
I don't want to put them near the wine. What if they start smelling and stuff? They'll just make it.
Yeah, and Chef Burgers doesn't really want them in the scullery
No.
either, with all of his potatoes and onions.
I think we've just moved them further into the cave, so they're not by the water, but
like
they're not
maybe where the
living-
mass burial site used to be, like that kind of square of upturned earth.
As long as that piece of earth isn't like
It's
enchanted or
reincarnated.
something.
It's like an X pit. So it's just compared to the earth around it, you can tell that it's recently been dug and it's like a square shape. So it's easily spotted compared to the rest of the caves.
Rocky, lock the downstairs door just in case they come back to life.
Maybe you like put a tarp over the bodies so it's not immediately obvious that it's just a pile of dead bodies.
Yeah, could be rolls of fabric.
Yeah, you like some silk. Drape it in some of the rolls of silk that you've commandeered from the smugglers.
They would lose value then, surely. Why don't we just stick them in the boat and stick the tarp over the top of it?
All right, stick them in the boat. Stick a tarp over the boat.
Sure. Why not? That's a good idea. Then if all happens, we can just shove them out in the boat.
Yeah, the Viking burial that Stiiv wanted.
This is true.
Oh, that's true. You haven't gotten to do the Viking burial. So disappointing.
There's still time.
There's
Just
still time, but if we can
save
get some
them.
money from
Save them
first,
for
then it's
later.
worth it.
Yeah, maybe you can like sort this out really fast and then hop back home and have a nice Viking burial for supper time. It'd be a pleasant end to the day.
Right.
So you head into town. Is there anything specific about how you heading? I'm going to just say that Stiiv is Mask of Many Faces, seeing himself. He's not going to Stiiv.
Is he Barry the tomato vendor?
He's
then?
not going out as Barry the tomato vendor because he's still a bit traumatized about what happened last time. So
Well,
he's gonna go as Esteban Urkel, the most interesting man in Saltmarsh.
Okay, the one he's used before.
Yes. And you're all quite startled when he makes this transformation because none of you realized that Esteban Urkel had anything to do with Stiiv. I think are any of you familiar with Esteban Urkel?
Didn't he come out with the? Did he help us in front of the store, Esteban, or was that?
One, it didn't.
I know he's been in the bar in the snapping
Didn't we
line.
Yeah, he's noted on the Dramatis Personae list as being the most popular guy in the snapping line.
You might not have actually run into him before.
Okay.
I don't think
We'll
we
just take it as a new face.
Yes, it's a very suave, dapper looking man of middle years. Appears in Steve's stead. And he kind of says, nobody's going to know that I'm this guy. We aren't going to run into him.
Are we taking Oceanus with us?
He will follow you.
I'm just curious if he has the same reaction to the bridge as Kerithlana.
Yes.
Yeah, Kerithlana wasn't going to use the bridge, but should be intrigued to watch as well.
You head to the north part of Saltmarsh. You reach the Sharkfin Bridge. And as you get close, Oceanus kind of instinctively diverges his path the same way that Kerithlana does and does a little dip into the water a good 100 yards away from where the bridge is.
Interesting.
It's kind of like this, nope, I don't like that bridge. That bridge is not cool. It's something unsettling. Bridge,
Okay,
probably cursed.
Okay, Kymir's going to walk over the bridge.
As you approach, you pass the town hall that you've been to before several times. There is a crowd of people assembled where Gellin Primewater's mansion rises over the docks. I'm map fiddling.
Okay, I've just got the general Saltmarsh map up.
I'm going to share the map that I'm fiddling with because we're going back to the docks. You might actually have this map already. It's the one where we did the claw pong encounter.
The Prime Waters house map.
Saltmarsh
Yep.
Docks, Prime Water's house. A swarm of people. I know, I'm sorry this is taking so.
Barry the tomato vendor, he looks familiar.
Yeah, that was like
What?
the one thing I accomplished this week. Was, okay, gotta make that avatar
Who
for
is
Barry the
that?
Tomato Vendor.
Is that somebody from Backstreet Boys?
No,
It
not
is
Bald
Marky
Head.
Mark.
New Kids on
See,
the Block.
obviously, we're not cool.
Because there was Twitter talk that it was officially that's what he looks like now. Somebody said so, and I'm like, okay, yes, sir, yes, ma'am. This is why I exist.
Marky Mark was Mark Wahlberg. Yeah.
Yes,
The actor.
yes.
What the chuff?
Oh, she's a bit backwards at coming forwards, aren't you?
This is not my kind of music.
Well, it's not mine either, but I knew.
I'm old.
There's so many people on this map that I don't even know where you guys are anymore. So Kerithlana and Oceana is kind of approaching from the southern dock because they came across the water. You guys came across the bridge. The rest of you came across the bridge. So you're more on the west side approach. Where I don't have as much room on the map.
Just squeezes in.
Where the
doesn't
map is all skinny. So you work your way through the crowds, and I'll share the, just in case you don't have it. You work your way through the crowd. Stiiv is not actually Stiiv. Okay, that's everybody. There's lots of people milling about. There's talking. There's exclamations. You see that below the balcony where Gellin Primewater usually lorded over the parties that he threw for the town, there is a body that has fallen from the balcony and that has crashed on the wood and cobblestones below. And it's just blood on the cobbles and broken bones and a mangled pulpy mess.
Okay.
And as you approach, you see a cloth being pulled over. At the far, like close by, but on the opposite side of the body from where you are, like just beyond a few, what looks like town guards, you see Anders and what you assume, because you haven't met them, are other council members next to him. They all look quite concerned. Eleander is also, he's closer to the body, and he is looking over it with the peg-legged man that I guess all three of you met at the prison quite some time ago when you first arrived in Saltmarsh. And you know he's like kind of the head of the prison, but he's also Eleander's right-hand man. So if anybody is second in command of the town watch, it is Craddock Stonehorn. And then there's some other officers who are trying to keep the crowds at bay and helping gather, I guess, evidence of the scene. There's also what seems to be, you've kind of pushed past them, and then they pushed past you. two religious sort of figures. They're talking to the town watch. You see them try to cast something on the body, and nothing happens. There's shaking of heads. Apparently, he's too far gone for whatever their magic they can do.
Should we go talk to Anders to see if he knows what happened?
Might be an idea.
Several of the townsfolk notice Esteban Urgel, and there's a little bit of a titter, like, oh, it's Esteban, Esteban. And everybody's like, it's the first thing that has pulled their attention away from lollygagging, rednecking at what we call rednecking. I feel so
Rubbernecking.
rubbernecking. Okay. Rednecking. Oh, I can say that I'm from the South. I got redneck relatives. What? Looking at the body, but like Esteban Urkel is like the number one thing that is more interesting than looking at the dead body. So they're like, Esteban, I owe you a drink later. And Esteban's just doing like a royal wave and nodding. Hello, it smiles. Everyone smiles. So you guys make your way toward Anders.
Yeah.
You can adjust yourselves accordingly.
Is it worth just sort of like quietly saying aside to Stiiv as we're passing, see if you can get any information from all these people who love you so much? Unless he's wanting to come and speak to Anders, but
Yeah, he's fine with. He's kind of slinking, and he's kind of keeping a berth from the town watch people, as Stiiv is wont to do. And he's kind of he'll slink. He's like, of course, and he just kind of slinks in between of them and just trying to overhear conversations and say hello to people. Oceanus kind of steps forward and is first peering at the body and looks around. And he realizes he has no clue who any of these people are, what's going on, and what's so important about it other than a guy is dead. But it's some human guy. It's definitely nobody he knows. So then he follows you guys over to where Anders is, because he knows who you guys are, kind of.
Okay, I'll tell him to keep quiet and just follow our lead, just in case.
And he gets a few weird looks initially because here's another sea elf, but people see he's with you and assume he's okay. Because there's at least recognition of Kerithlana as a sea elf, having been in Saltmarsh before.
So I guess we ask Anders what the hell's happened.
Anders spots you. Oh, you're here. What happened with the smuggler ship? He kind of scooshes you away from the other two counselors. Kind of steps aside a few feet initially.
Do you want to tell him?
Well,
Shaefira?
we'll just tell him that the smuggler ship was sorted out. We really want to know what's happened here. We'll tell him the long story later over a pint.
But we have got some bodies back at the house that we'd like you to come and have a look at as well.
He says, dead bodies? Oh, more dead bodies? Like dead smugglers?
Yes.
Ooh, that sounds successful. Okay, here's what I know. Dylan Primewater is dead.
Yeah.
Really?
We're not quite sure when it happened, but so far they're thinking it was suicide.
Really?
Early morning, as the sun was coming up, Harme Lovash came across the body. He's a fisher, you know. Just a normal guy. Found the body. And there was a note on the body. Written in Gellen's own hand.
Do you know what it said?
Here, Eleander has a copy of it. But in general, it was him confessing to being a really bad sort and saying that he couldn't handle being caught. He was very scared of you guys. And if you got dead smugglers, then he was probably right to be scared. He was worried about me too, because I was so suspicious of him. So apparently he couldn't handle getting persecuted for his crimes. So he took the easy way out, jumped off his balcony.
Yeah, I'm going to look at the other guys and say, do we actually believe he would do that?
No. I've... So, we finished our activities, and the boat would have normally have left, which means it would have made a connection somewhere else. Didn't. Which probably means that this is a fail-safe on the boat not coming in. And we weren't exactly discreet about our inquiries.
True.
So I would say that this has the look of something being tidied up.
It is
rather than
within.
taking responsibility.
I mean, it's less than 12 hours from when you first started messing around with the signaling and going out to the ship, etc. So I will say that that assumption assumes that there is
Someone else.
someone
in the
else
village, in the
very close by, and that or there's people in the town who are like completely cognizant of everything going on, but who did not warn the smuggler ship of you guys.
Well, Barry the tomato vendor looks awfully suspicious, I have to say.
He just Barry the tomato vendor. He's staying apart from everybody else because you observe that people are giving him kind of short shrift. There's some distance and discomfort surrounding Barry the tomato vendor. Like people aren't really trusting him right now.
It's because he's wearing his hat backwards and his pants are at half height.
And he's got a bit of a sneer on his face.
Barry looks like he's in a bit of a bad mood.
Yeah.
So you've done your initial talking with Anders sotto voce. I'm saying sotto voce a lot today. But in quiet voices, he's using his library voice. But once he's given you the initial straight dope, you hear him call out to Eleander, and he motions to the other counselors, the surviving counselors. And he says, "It's about time you meet the full group." And he goes, "Eleander! Ada! Mestrad!" So Eleander approaches you guys, and he recognizes the three of you. Manistrad and Ada, they have not run into you before. Ada Oland is a human. She is an older woman, fairly tall. She's dressed like a fighter. She looks very self-assured. But she also appears to be in a really pissy mood. And not only can you tell this from her demeanor, but you can tell by when she exclaims, approaching you in a testy voice, "What the fuck do you want, Anders? What is going on?" Better not be wasting my time. I mean, do we know who killed? Like, did Gellin really kill himself? Or are there hijinks going on? And she starts cussing up a storm, like she's really impatient and she's unsettled by what's happening. You know what this means?
No, what?
Barnacle's balls. We're gonna have to hold an election for another council member. She's just really irritated. Monastrad is a dwarf. And she doesn't really say much of anything. She's just watching everyone else. And she's kind of looking at Anders expectantly, like, what, you wanted my attention for something? And she's kind of tapping her foot like time is wasting. And Eleander greets each of you. And Anders says, these guys are trustworthy, and I'm sure they can help us with whatever, if we need, like, this looking into, or, they've been helping me with a very peculiar situation with smugglers in this town, and tracking them down, and dealing with piracy. And at the mention of smugglers, you hear Ada Olin kind of let out this hoot, and she's, like, shaking her head, like, ugh. Smugglers, they're just people. They're just trying to eat. She's like, pirates, yes. Smugglers, no.
So she's not bothered about smugglers.
She's not bothered about smugglers at all. And she just kind of scoffing at Anders. She doesn't take Anders truly seriously. So she's kind of scoffing at him even mentioning smugglers in the same breath as pirates. And she's like, I don't have any damn time for you rambling on about smugglers again. And Anders says, but these are pirate smugglers.
Wow.
And these guys dealt with a ship of them last night. And that kind of pulls everybody's attention toward the three of you. And then they kind of look at Oceanus, the sea elf, a little bit too, and they're like, you see Eliana Fireborn point at him and be like, is he with you?
Right, so I suppose we should explain that he was being held captive by the smugglers.
Mm-hmm.
And then we freed him, or you freed him.
Mm-hmm.
We mentioned the undead up at the house and the fact that these smugglers are like kind of nasty, or were nasty.
And Eleander seems quite intrigued. He's like, is that why it had the rumor of being haunted? Because necromancy.
Yeah.
Necromancy up at the house.
There was some really nasty stuff up there.
He's kind of scratching his beard. Okay. So what happened with this one? He was a prisoner aboard this pirate ship, this smuggler ship, you say?
Yes.
And then, with very little prompting, Oceanus just starts talking about everything. He's like, he was kidnapped, and he was held in this room, and they fed him crap for, like, only 3 times. The rest of the time, he was just, like, starving. And he heard something about Firewatch. Nobody else knows what Firewatch is. And then he's, like, saying that he starts talking about you guys saw lizard folk, and that the lizard folk are arming up with weapons. And and everybody's like, what? So all the counselors are like, lizard folk. And Andrew's like, lizard folk? And
God damn it.
And Edda's like, by the flame, lizard folk. Manastrad, she's like, I've recently moved here just a couple of years ago. Are there lizard folk here? I didn't know we had lizard folk. And Eleander looks around you guys again. He's like, where's Jaw's desk? Does he know about this? Are they his people?
We don't know.
And Eleander's
Just-
kind of scratching his beard and he says, are doing maneuvers. Oh, we know that there's been an increase in the movements of lizard folk closer to Saltmarsh lately. From what I know, they used to be more to the west. But for some reason, they moved more east and a little bit closer to Saltmarsh recently. There's been a few skirmishes with them.
Do you know why they moved?
No.
I
Unless
have
you
the
got...
V and I'm going to point
I
at
mean,
Ocean.
Joe's desk is the one I would have asked that question of, if he knew.
Same.
He's the lizard folk I know the best. I've had the most encounters with, most time working together with.
Yeah, he disappeared a couple of nights ago. Not suspiciously disappeared, but not unsuspiciously disappeared either.
I can't remember. Do we know did he leave us a note saying he had to go?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He kind of just left. He didn't bother to write you a note. He left behind the note he got from Queen Oathagant,
Right, that was it. Yeah.
commanding
we-
him to return to...
Yeah. So we can explain that he was recalled by his people to obviously do some sort of task for them, and obviously his first loyalty is to his.
And all the surviving town councillors seem a bit befuddled by this, a little bit concerned. Eleander pulls out a blood-stained note, and he kind of holds it out to you for your inspection. It is handwritten, and it is the purported suicide note of Gellin Primewater.
And
I'll put it in your thing, in your group inventory, but I will also read it aloud. So it says, friends, adversaries, citizens. Even if the newcomers and that besmirched tadpole Stiiv fail to interfere with the smuggler's vessel, my time has run out. I cannot escape the truth any longer. The young pulp Anders has begun to suspect everything and would see me hung for my folly. I now understand that I cannot live with Saltmarsh's scorn. Popularity with the people is all that matters. Losing their good opinion renders my existence meaningless, and so I depart this world on my own terms. On my personage you will find funds to sponsor my funeral. I do not expect the people to forgive me for my crimes against them, but I ask that they remember I was not always selfish. Have one last party, Saltmarsh, if only to dance upon this sinner's grave. Farewell, my fishes. Gellin Primewater.
that may be the best suicide note I've ever heard.
And Eleander also pulls out this pouch that he has on his person. He says he left behind 500 gold to pay for his funeral. Bit of an asshole, but sort of classy. That was Gellin. He says that they have, his guards have, and he himself has scoured briefly inside Gellin's house. They haven't
Nothing
found
suspicious.
they haven't found anything suspicious that would support the idea of any additional evidence about any of these crimes that Gellin refers to in his note. And so he asks you, I know that Anders here is claiming that Gellin had something to do with smugglers or pirates who were engaged in slavery, in hijacking citizens from the streets of Saltmarsh and, taking them to fate dire and unknown. But do you have any proof of this? You who have dealt with this ship, as he says, last night.
Other
that-
than, other than
Go on.
being drugged at one of his parties and waking up on a slave ship.
Yeah, I mean that's how we got dragged in the first place.
Yeah.
Go
But
on,
we've only got
Shaefira.
our words on that.
So he nods because this is similar to, I think Josdes at least explained this situation with the ship that sank, the Golden Hook. So he'd heard Josdes's report before.
Has Shirt turned up?
As you look around the crowd, you do see that two of the adventurers who are part of the Local 39 Hugs unit here in Saltmarsh are in the crowd.
Is that Patsy and Venomwind?
Pansy Pepperweight and
Pansy.
Venomwind. They are in the crowd. You don't see any Warforged. So Eleander, he kind of nods brusquely. He's like, okay, people are being hijacked from the streets. And they do seem to be taken into slavery, put in manacles as you were. Going to parts unknown. And at this point, Oceanus is like, they're going to Firewatch! They're going to Firewatch! And everyone's like, shut up, Oceanus! There's lizard folk involved!
Just, has anyone got a gag?
You can kick.
Oh,
you can kick Oceanus as a free action.
Yeah, he's getting
Right.
kicked.
Did Shaefira find a gag?
But he's like, but do we actually have any proof that Gellin was definitely in on this? Because
No.
any number of people go to these parties. Practically, at least half of Saltmarsh goes to the parties he throws, and he's been throwing them for years. Only recently have there been more reports of disappearances.
I think it's fair to say that all we had were suspicions based on his dealing with us, timings. We weren't going to come down to town after dealing with the smugglers that we dealt with and start accusing him of anything. The idea was to, obviously, the immediate issue was to sort out the smugglers, and the necromantic things going on up in the house, and then obviously try and get to the bottom of what exactly was happening. But we definitely had no proof and weren't going to make any hasty actions. And then I start laughing because that's exactly what we do. Ah, dear.
So, we were being followed by an imp. And to my knowledge, he's the only one who could afford. Actually,
Yeah. And it's on the map, and I know it's on the map, and I can see it. But would I Kymir have spied it? Would anyone else in our party have seen?
Yeah, you guys can, like, pretty much, if you look around, you can there's a imp perched at the top of, like, the gables of one building, kind of peering down.
And he's watching us.
He's watching everybody. He's watching everything.
So if
He's like a seagull, just kind of, he's
right,
taking
so
root.
I'm gonna lean in and say, look, that imp behind us on that roof was following us, or following someone in our party the other day, and we thought Gallon had set it onto us. Does anyone know if it belongs to someone else? Has anyone else seen it before?
or if it was summoned directly by Galen,
It
would
would
have
have
become
gone, wouldn't it?
died. I think.
That's what I thought.
None of the counselors know who the imp belongs to, but Ada Olin, she's like, imp? Those are like devils, aren't they? And she looks first at Kymir, because Kymir's a tiefling. Isn't that your sort? And then she like looks over her shoulder at where Captain Xandros from the Faithful Quartermasters of Melissia is standing. Isn't that the kind of thing that hangs out with you people?
Who did he say that to?
To Kymir.
No. What?
Kymir's like, that's very racist.
Just because I've got horns. Do I actually have any sort of ability? No, I can't. Well, no, I've got. Hang on. Oh, damn it! Where's my languages?
Fiendish and devilish background.
I can speak infernal. What would a method speak? If I shouted at it in infernal, would it understand me?
You can certainly shout something if you really, really want to.
I don't know if I should move away from everyone in case it's more likely to talk to me if
Well, it's up on the roof, so it's like a good it's like 20 feet above ground level. You can see it like perched up at the top near the weather vane like a bird.
Do we know if methods are intelligent? There must be. In that case, I'm going to point and say, look, it is racist, but I'm going to try. And then I'm going to turn around and just look at it and shout in infernal. Hey, how you doing? Just give it a little wave.
You see the imp kind of like startle, like, oh my god, I forgot, I'm not invisible again. Like he's forgotten that he's visible yet again, and he immediately poofs out of sight.
Shit. I'm going to say, dude, I know you're still there. I was just wondering if you fancied a chat. Maybe give us a hand?
Do a persuasion check. Yeah, nothing.
Turn back and shrug and say, look, I told you. I would like to know whose method it belongs, who it belongs to, though.
At this point, you recognize your acquaintance Tito. He comes huffing up from the west, kind of like the northwest, to the crime scene, and he's shouting. He's like, "You're spending all this time investigating that rich wanker's death, but what about the people in the sties?"
In the sties, did you say?
In the sties. You guys know that the sties, it's the more like the poor part of town.
Ah, okay.
A little, yeah, more the north. Like, there's a really grungy part of the town where Stiiv lives in his hovel, and there's that like really kind of untrustworthy Broken Net, I think is the name of the tavern, to the south, like the southern side of the Sharkfin Bridge. And that part's a little bit shady, but it's not like fully residential. Like Steve's hovel is makeshift, kind of shady adjacent.
Mm-hmm.
But the Stiiv are like an area where people who don't have a lot of money uh, to rub together live. A lot of the smugglers and fishers live there. It's also the oldest part of Saltmarsh. It's kind of like has that phenomena going on where these were the first buildings that were built when the town was settled. And so they were the first ones to fall into disrepair. And the people with money, rather than refurbish what was there, moved southward and built their fancy mansions and new buildings to the south. So the oldest, most straggly docks and the most dilapidated buildings and tenements and everything are to the north side, and that's called the Stiiv.
Okay.
And you hear Tito ranting because he's claiming there's at least two dead. At least two dead from last night. One of them being his great friend Crawford. The other being the fish wax vendor. 80 Bloomwiffler is his name. He's a gnome. Little 80. He's dead. My great friend Crawford. Dead. Got all the missing. We've got Raybob's missing. Geordie's missing. John Joe's missing. What are you going to do about those? Who cares about Gillen Primewater if he's dead? What about the people? Ada Olin overhears this, and she kind of crosses her arms in front of her chest, and she's like, the guy's got a point. What about the people? Gellin is one person. We've got multiple people who are dead over the Stiiv. Are your people over there, Eliander? Are you investigating their deaths? And Eliander looks a little bit irritated. He's like, we're getting to it. Not long after that, Trivet comes running up. And she sees you guys. She runs up to Kymir, because Kymir is the first person that she notices. And she's, have you seen Stiiv?
He's around somewhere.
Oh gosh, something terrible has happened.
Why? What?
My pappy's disappeared.
I'm guessing that's her dad.
Yes,
Father.
Right.
Potter.
Just in case
It's kind of
some sort
Steve's
weird thing
dad too. I mean, you know, if your dad makes you sleep out in the shed in the back. But he's like Steve's foster dad.
Okay.
He's missing. He's disappeared. And I don't know what to do. And then she sees Anders, and she's like, Anders, my dad is missing. And Anders kind of puffs up his chest. He's like, oh, that's terrible.
Oh god, he fancies her, doesn't he? Right.
We've got to do something.
All right. So we've got a dead Gallon, two people dead in the Stiiv. One of whom is Crawford was the guy who ran off with Tito. We let him go. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Right. We don't know the other guy who's dead. He's just
Just some gnome you have not met.
right. Well, I
Fish
didn't want
fish
to-
wax seller.
And then Trivet, possibly Steve's dad.
Definitely Trivet's dad. Kinda Steve's dad.
Right.
Trivet seems certain that Steve would want to know.
What did
Okay.
that do?
And there were some other names mentioned, like Raybob's missing and Geordie's missing, and
We know where they are.
some guy named John Joe.
Probably with a pile of other people. Sorry,
Which one?
Kerithlana, what did you say?
What did Trivet Amoria's dad do? Because if he's another councillor or something like that, that would be a different case to another pile of smugglers disappearing. and I'm kind of confused.
Trivet's like, my dad is an honest fisherman.
Mm-hmm.
So Tito coming in and shouting about people disappearing when he knows damn well that he's a smuggler,
Mm-hmm.
and that would have been punishable in some way, shape, or form, doesn't seem to be sensible.
Well, Tito isn't privy necessarily to everybody he doesn't have full knowledge of everybody who actually is dead and who isn't dead.
But he knows that Crawford's a smuggler with him, doesn't he?
Yeah.
And the other names that he rattled off, he would have known they were smugglers as well.
He would have known who was a smuggler and who wasn't. Yeah, he would have known. Everybody kind of, or some people might suspect, like not everybody knows exactly who's a smuggler, but if you worked on the same gang together, you definitely know that they were a smuggler.
Yes, but he did, which is why
Everybody do insight checks.
God damn it!
Whoop whoop.
Oh, thank God for that.
Okay, Kerithlana, even though you're like questioning exactly what are Tito's motives for running into the crowd here, you can tell that his concern is genuine. Like he is definitely shaken that there are people dead and missing that he did not expect to be dead and missing. So he genuinely doesn't think, he does not believe that the people that he's talking about are missing because of smuggling things. Now, he might not know everything that you know about exactly what happened to some of these people of names that you recognize. But when he says that Crawford is dead, he's saying somebody murdered Crawford. And he really believes it.
Okay, so is everybody that's dead a fisherman?
Well, Trivet doesn't know that her dad's dead, just that he's missing.
He's disappeared.
Which sort of breaks the pattern with everyone else has just been left.
And the fish, what does a fish wax vendor do other than vend fish wax?
Fish wax.
There's not a large market for fish wax. Man, internet. There's not a large market for fish wax. However, Trivet will say to you, 80 Bloomwiffler, he wasn't a fisherman. He only gathered nets, for fish wax. Very dedicated to the craft of fish wax he was.
Why would you want to polish a fish? I don't understand.
Is fish wax not a sea elf thing?
The
Yeah,
fish
you
are
put it
shiny
in your
by
hair.
themselves. They don't need to be like.
Oh dear.
She explains fish wax is what really poor students use instead of like beeswax.
But fish don't make wax.
Somehow the gnomes know the secret for getting wax out of a fish.
Yeah, maybe they just call it wax and it's not. It's just
It is a bit smelly.
Uh,
You know the brand of fish wax that 80 Bloomwiffler sold is called Eureka Fish Wax?
It's because you smell.
all right.
So
We've got
there's all this stuff, all this talking. People are dying, and Eleander looks a bit, he's like, more people, more dead things to investigate. And the guards that are there, some of the constables, have covered Gellin Primewater's body, and they've put him up on a wagon, and they're getting ready to remove him to the prison and barracks proper for storage until they have time to further sort things out. So they're getting ready to head off to the Stiiv. He tells you that there's a scouting party of his men who are roaming. They've been gone for a couple weeks, and they are due back in 2 days. And he'll be eager to learn from them what they say about if they've spotted any lizard folk activity. If maybe they can further identify the location of this tribal outpost that people are talking about is nearby. So he's looking forward to hearing about that. And then he asks you if there's anything else that you want to look at or see related to Gellin before they close up the house and move the body.
I don't know. Do we think it's worth us having a look around the house to look for evidence, or do we just trust Eliander's?
I think there's some proper dodgy going on in this town, and there's somebody orchestrating it. But
Do you say that to Eliander, or do you keep that to yourselves?
I think we should keep it to ourselves for the time being.
Helps if I press a button when I'm talking. I think we should go down this little alley, tell Barry to bugger off, and we should just have a little conflab.
It looks like Barry would probably headbutt us.
As long as it's just him and there aren't 4 others of him, you could walk towards him in a fairly menacing manner. I think you'd back off.
Yeah.
When Ada Oland hears mention of the scouting party returning in 2 days, she's like, well, okay, they'll give us a report, and we should have a meeting in 2 days. These people, your adventurers, and she points to you guys, they should show up too. We'll send them out to take care of it. What if we find anything interesting? She's just assuming that you're going to work for the town now. She's very kind of brusque and authoritative about it. The dwarf doesn't say anything, but she's like, that seems efficient. And that's about the only thing you've heard her say. The dwarf seems satisfied, and she kind of bids everyone farewell and leaves. Or she would leave if I found where she is in the list of millions of people. Boop. Boop. If only Oceanus would leave. And Oceanus is like, oh yes, I will totally attend this meeting. I will absolutely, at your service.
I'm going to roll my eyes.
Part of me wishes that I'd bluffed out being the queen.
All right.
So Elianus, do you want to talk to him? Do you want to talk to Harmy? Lovich, who found the body? Anything? Anyone?
I don't know if. Well, do we? Hang on. Is he a fisherman as well?
Trivet's like, yeah, he's a fisherman. Yeah, fisherman. There are a lot of fishermen in town. Half the people on this dock are fishermen.
Is she saying that as if to say he's a smuggler?
She's like, okay, before when she was talking about the gnome, she was kind of giving this wink, with her right eye, no, he's not a smuggler. But now she's talking about Harme, she's like left eye winking, yeah, he's kind of a smuggler.
All right, so.
And then she's like, look, let's just meet me back at town hall. We can talk. And then she's like, come on, Anders. We gotta find my dad. And he's like, okay. And he just follows along behind Trivet like a puppy. And she goes, if you see Stiiv, tell him our dad is missing.
Will do.
And I will remove them from the map if I find them from like where in the millions of people in this.
Sorry, put my thing up. Do we think it's worth having a word with the guy who found the body?
Maybe, but not here and not now.
Okay, so we could maybe just go find him later. Do we think it's worth asking Alexander if we can go have a look around Gallant's house before he shuts it up?
Yes.
Right, then that's what we would like to do.
Yes.
Okay. So you gain access. He lets you in. He has one of the guards go with you. It's a young constable named Judy. This chick right here. And she kind of like escorts you in and just kind of like stands by while you just kind of rummage through the rooms. She seems very, efficient but quiet about it. So she doesn't question what you're doing. But she does kind of keep her posture like she's being very attentive and on duty and not slacking about. Unfortunately, true to, well, so far, as you look around, at least on the first level, and in Gellin Primewater's office in his house, you don't see anything. It seems really accurate that there doesn't seem to be anything in this house so far that indicates anything other than the facade that Gellin Primewater presented as being, sort of a, what's the right term? Maybe a sensualist. Like he's into fine wine and he's into fancy things. So the house is very well ornamented. There's a lots of bits and bobs. It's perhaps over decorated in a slightly, tacky way because he's trying a bit too hard. There's a whole lot of wine and brandy and whiskey. She says, waiting for Shaefira to pass out with glee.
Yeah.
And there are cigars and tobacco and whatnot.
Joy. I'll just move in and stay here. It's
But
fine.
everyone do a perception check.
Shaefira obviously got distracted by the booze
Yeah.
and tobacco.
As you move upstairs and you start to search the different bedrooms, you're still not really finding anything that seems like evidence of any kind of crimes or wrongdoing. You're certainly not finding papers. You're not finding any secret doors to like hidden rooms that are filled with, tricky bookkeeping records. But when you get to what appears to be Gellin Primewater's bedroom, you examine all of the wall hangings. You examine the bottles on his vanity, and the man used a lot of grooming products. There's like mustache wax, there's pomade. You find a collection of corsets in his closet, like maybe he was cinching in his waist a little. A collection of hats with really poofy feathers. And as Kerithlana examines his bed quite gingerly, she does notice that there's like a little place in the canopy over the bed in an otherwise quite fastidious household where it looks to be well dusted and everything is either brand new or very well kept. There's a hole in the fabric about the size of a copper coin in the canopy over the bed.
That's really weird. What's the ceiling like above it?
It's regular plaster ceiling. There does seem to be a little bit of a of a distance between the top of the canopy and the ceiling, but you can't, you would have to be higher up to really get a good view up there. It's a little bit obstructed from your view.
Okay, well, Oceanus can make himself useful. Turn him into a table and then stand on his back.
So you stand on his back, kind of trying to get a good view of the ceiling and the top of the canopy. Roll an insight check. You're not really sure what's going on here. You do see that you can tell that it seems a little bit weird because two of the, what do you call it, like balustrades or posts of the canopy bed, like the wooden spires that are on each of the four corners, two of them are still slightly dusty and two are not. But one of them that's not, you're not quite sure if it was already like that or because you accidentally brushed up against it. But one of them is definitely not dusty, whereas the others are. And you feel like either this is the one spot where housekeeping kind of slacked off, or you feel like somebody else was up here looking around.
Ask Jute if anybody else has looked through.
She says she wasn't in charge of this room before, but she knows that there are other officers who searched it before, including Eleander himself.
Okay.
She can't tell you if people climbed up on top of, like, she knows no one's climbed up on a sea elf's back. She's not quite sure anyone looked at that up there before. But the hole just seems perplexing. Like, you don't understand why it's there. Like, they just seem to maybe overlook it, or if there's some reason for it being there.
So it wouldn't be a spy hole because anybody using it spy hole would then be obvious against the top of the cannon.
Mm-hmm.
There's no corresponding hole in the ceiling.
There's no corresponding hole in the ceiling. Everybody can do another insight check. Kymir and Shaefira, while Kerithlana is up high looking at the canopy more closely, Kymir and Shaefira, you kind of are poking at the bed below, looking at the pillows and the blankets, and there's something off to you about the bed. Like, it's not completely made up. The covers are a little bit ruffled, and you see that underneath the pillows there's a nightcap, as well as a sleep mask, and it kind of gives you the feeling that someone was in the bed recently.
How recently?
Like, either Gellin just leaves those items in his bed rather than storing them somewhere else.
So he was in bed, asleep,
Oh.
and then somebody chucked him over the balcony. Maybe.
But was he dressed?
Well,
GM, do we know if Gallon actually had clothes on or pajamas?
He did not have pajamas on, from what you can tell in the body outside. He was wearing trousers and boots and a frilly shirt and one of his frock coats. They were all covered in blood. There was a hat lying on the ground that you assume It looked like one of his. It had a very large plume.
Somebody could have killed him, dressed him in his normal clothes, and chucked him over the balcony to make it look like it's suicide.
Yeah. I suppose, I mean, can we ask you, does she know if anyone's checked the body to see if the cause of death is...
Post-mortem.
God, it's like CIS. NCIS. What? Bones. Yeah, do we know if anyone's checked the body to see if it's consistent with being, you know, jumping out of a window? You would think so, though, wouldn't you?
I don't know. How high up is the balcony?
It's a good maybe 3 stories.
All right then.
So you'd normally be looking at quite a splatter.
Yeah, well, maybe a few broken bones.
It wouldn't be surprised to have like several broken bones, and like if he hit just so, his head would be smashed. I mean, there's like the slim chance that somebody could survive that kind of fall if they landed correctly. But not a CR0.
But if you sneeze at a CR0, they explode.
Yeah, they tie Gellen's corset too tight and he's dead.
All right.
You don't, when you're looking around the house, you do not notice any staff.
But they could have been sent home, couldn't they? Bad yard. I suppose again, it's like, do you know? Did Gallon Prime Water have staff? Have you interviewed them?
Eleander,
No one...
yeah, Eleander has sent them to the to the barracks for further questioning. He did an initial interview of them. There was a cook. There was the valet. There was a major domo. And a maid.
And have they gone for a while? Or any
None of them saw anything. The valet was the last one to see Mr. Primewater. He was sent away after providing his master with his evening brandy.
What time would that been?
Would have been, well, before midnight. A good hour or so before his master would normally retire for the evening when there wasn't a party going on. He did say that his master did not call him back to assist him for his evening regimen to help him change, which wasn't completely unusual. Every now and then he does that, especially if he's heavy drinking. But usually he would ask for his assistance because of the corset.
The what?
The corset.
Oh. Did anybody have access to the brandy before he took his drink up to him?
You should probably talk to the staff about that. I'm not quite sure of all the questions. Perhaps the captain, Captain Fireborn, asked that question before, but I don't know what their answer was.
All right, so something to follow up on. All right, can we provide help to Kerithlana with the hole in the...
Yes, Kerithlana, would you like something doing?
We could poke something in the hole and see what happens.
Oh,
Got
I'm
a quarter
struggling
staff.
little bit. Yeah, I'm struggling a bit. I think it's because I'm too short.
Well,
I
I
mean,
can't help.
These are land beds. It's like all these furnishings are not the kind that you're used to, Kerithlana.
Oh, they're weird.
You're not quite sure. I mean, it's not a net, so you're not quite sure why there's a hole in it. And if it was an actual net, there should be more holes, right?
A net's more of a collection of Really.
It just seems to be like an odd thing, that doesn't fit with everything else.
Next to Oceanus and to hoist her up onto my shoulders so she can stand on them.
Okay,
Let her
so
have a look.
Shaefira's peeking around.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, you roll Shaefira, roll an insight. Yeah, you're kind of stumped as well.
All right, can I hand up my quarterstaff and get her to just poke it in the hole and see what happens?
Your quarterstaff
Well.
is actually larger than the hole. So you tear it?
No. Oh dear.
Crap. We don't have to poke it in
You
the
hear
hole.
this
It's too
little
big.
rip of fabric.
Just, do you know what? Get a knife out, just tear it off and see what happens.
And then you hear this little giggle from Constable Jute, and then you look over at her, and she's really quickly suddenly tries to get a straight face, like stoic again. But you know that you just saw her like wreck something. She just saw you wreck something.
Is anything up there?
You don't notice. You don't notice anything different other than the hole, and you're not quite sure why it would be there.
You just had moths.
It's a bit big for a
What?
moth hole.
Yeah. What about? All right. So you said one of the balustrades
Shaefira,
was.
you do realize, when you're up there, you're kind of like trying to get a really close look, and you're shorter than Kerithlana is even. So you decide to try to crawl up on the canopy, and you find that it's enough to support at least your weight.
Okay.
And Kerithlana sees you do this, so she tries it as well. And it seems to be sturdy enough to hold both of your
I got this whole
weights.
sleeping in bed thing's wrong.
That
I
it's
thought you-
all up.
I thought
that
you went on the
this
soft
fabric
side,
is
but-
quite resilient. It could almost work as a makeshift hammock.
Cut out after makeshift.
A makeshift hammock.
Okay.
That
Mm.
at least it's strong enough to hold the weight of an elf and a halfling.
Bunk beds.
Right. Well, yeah. So, can I get my head up through the hole to have a look around or something?
If you want to
I
tear,
don't
if you want to tear the hole up more, because like it started out, it was the size of a copper coin, and then you jammed you jammed your staff through it, and then it was like the size of a plum.
Okay. I stick my 2 fingers up and.
Should we just set fire to it?
Sorry.
So at this point,
Oh my word.
I'm so glad Stiiv isn't here to witness this.
Oh god. You're not recording this, are you?
I am recording this. I'm not.
Oh,
I'm not
very
streaming it, but I am recording it.
Okay. Anyway, right, yeah, so I try and make the hole a bit bigger.
So you make the hole a bit bigger, and you're ripping the fabric now, and you've split. So like where it used to be a circle, it's now kind of trifurcated into like little kind of triangular shreds of fabric, kind of hanging down.
Kind of.
You can take a sample if you really want to. But otherwise, you've just kind of wrecked the canopy. I mean, before, it could kind of pass as being intact. There was just like this small hole that Kerithlana noticed. But now it's wrecked. Like, everybody can see it.
Right. So
And
is there anything?
You've kind of like frayed the edges. You've ripped it further, and so it's like all torn apart. It's like you could throw a bowling ball through it now.
Okay, so I could fit my head up there then.
Oh yeah, you can totally fit your head. I mean, you don't even have to worry about your horns, you know.
I'm the one
I ain't
with
got
horns.
horns. I ain't
Oh,
got
it's.
horns. Yeah, I'm a teeny
Oh wait, you're
tiny
the little.
halfling.
I got your voices. I'm sorry, I got your voices confused for a
I'm
second.
sorry.
You're so loud.
Me?
It's
Am I?
because you said about two fingers, you know.
Expected. Ach, oh yeah.
Normally you're
there's no
the
words,
quieter
I'm
one.
sorry. Yeah, normally. Right, so yeah, I'm sticking my head up there. Is there anything I can see?
You see Kerithlana. A bit off
Maybe
put that you've ripped the whole thing up.
So this little hole was on the underside of the canopy, yeah? Am I completely wrong about what this was?
Yeah, so there's, canopy. Normally it would just be a solid piece of fabric hanging
Yeah,
over the
it was
bed, looking fancy.
Tiny little hole in it.
So Kerithlana noticed this little copper piece or size of a coin, hole in it where everything else looked like it was in good condition. And she thought, huh.
There's nothing on the ceiling.
And then choices were made, dice were rolled, and now we have this
Oh, God.
ginormous hunking, scraps of fabric hanging down chasm in what used to be a
So now I'm thinking if it was something that you were supposed to put something in the hole to make some kind of light map thing that I don't know, I'm guessing that. What the hell?
It's
way
just
too
a
weird.
bed canopy.
you guys just not like, oh yeah, we totally found it that way.
Maybe we should just
torch on it.
set it on fire and run away.
Kerithlana suggested that already.
Oh
Yeah.
dear. Yeah.
she was onto something.
That party's answer to everything.
Gellen's not using it anymore. Okay.
So that was a complete waste of time then, yeah?
Yeah, we just
So-
got distracted by the hole.
Yeah, so you've
Okay.
you've examined it. You found that weird little hole, which you've now just made terrible, much worse. You've found signs that either they only half-ass clean the dusting the canopy, or signs that maybe somebody's maneuvered around there, but you're not quite sure whether or not it was the town watch, or whether it was somebody messing around up there like you guys are. You have established that it would certainly support the weight of a person if somebody was up there.
How obvious are they, though?
Oh! Someone done a James Bond thing, where they did the thread down to his mouth and dripped poison down on it.
Mm.
Because James Bond is obviously a well-known character in Eberron.
Yeah.
So this is your theory.
It
Is that what they've done?
now.
Is that what they've done?
It's one theory.
You have not rolled high enough on insight to confirm or deny that is actually what's possibly what happened, or whether or not that's definitely what didn't happen.
Okay. But it's potentially someone's been on top of the bed and has maybe made the hole and done something to Gallon while he's been asleep that night.
Yes,
Mhm.
you did see, and then there was that weird thing about there's a sleep mask and a nightcap shoved under the pillows.
Are they girly, blokey, nightcap and mask? Could we determine who'd be likely to be using?
They seem intended for a man, but they're quite fancy. For a fancy man,
Is Gallon
Like-
RuPaul?
like they're of the dimensions that it's either for a human male head or maybe a female half-orc or someone who has a larger head.
A dwarf.
Maybe they're dwarf sized, yeah.
Bum, bum.
But you don't think that a woman wore these items. These items were for a female, unless she was on the large size.
Or Butch.
Okay.
Or like Kymir's like, well, maybe she had horns.
That's a good point.
Well, yeah.
You know, something extra for the girth of the sleep mask, the circumference that its default tie was.
Is there any hair inside the nightcap?
Yes, you find a gray hair.
Okay, would that match Galen? Because he sounds like the
Yeah.
sort of person who'd dye it.
Well, Galen did have gray hair. It was curly, like highly pomaded and curled, but he did have gray hair.
Okay, is the inside of the cap greasy as well?
Yes.
Okay, that's
With fish wax?
It does not smell fishy.
Okay.
It smells of perfume. Elemental number 4.
Oh dear.
that's
So we're
brimstone.
satisfied he was wearing it then.
Yeah. You feel like it's not a crazy assumption that this was his nightcap. You can take it with you if you want to. Like if your intention is to like say question staff later, have the valet confirm or deny anything.
Mm.
Okay.
Yeah, I think we should take it and the eye mask.
Okay. That just
Yeah.
seems odd.
Back to the
Why?
question about the canopy, though. How obvious is it that Shaefira is up there?
How obvious is it that?
Shaefira is up there at the moment.
Well,
It's
for
got a bloody
Shaefira,
big gaping hole in.
you can't really tell. Well, you can. There's a hole, but the fabric is opaque. It is a damask kind of thing, and her weight doesn't seem to cause much of an indentation. Right now, it's there's some light coming in through the windows, but when you draw the curtains closed, shutting out the light of the day, and you snuff any candles that are out, it's quite dim in this room. And you imagine that you can't really tell in the darkness. That would be hard to see, especially if someone doesn't have dark vision like you. That for land people eyes, it might be difficult for them to discern any shadows on the fabric that might be caused by a halfling or an elf or a human or a dwarf up there.
Okay.
Or a tiefling. Or a Stiiv. So,
Okay, so
is there anything else you want to look at inside the mansion?
yeah, the paper.
The paper?
Yeah, paper. Because he's written a suicide note.
You
Is it
do
consistent with
find
any other?
there is stationery in his bedroom as well as downstairs in his office that appears to be the same type of paper.
Okay. Is there anything in the bin or the grate?
There's nothing in the grate. There's no sign of. I mean, there have been fires, but you don't see any sign of anything having been burnt, like of papers being burnt. Do another insight check.
All of us?
Anybody who wants to. Kymir, when you guys are rummaging around in the office, you see there's some lettering. I mean, some lettering. That sounds completely weird. That's not how words work. You can see handwritten papers. You find other correspondence that Gellin Primewater has written. And you compare it to the bloodstained note that Eleander Fireborn let you guys handle. And while it's not readily apparent, I mean, it's definitely not apparent to Shaefira. Shaefira is like, hey, they're both on the same fancy paper. This is unerringly like he wrote this. In Kerithlana, she thinks she's convinced that yeah, this looks pretty dire in terms of a suicide note. But Kymir, you notice that there seems to be something that doesn't quite match up in the G and the P of Gellen's signature.
Okay.
And you wonder if you're not entirely convinced that it's not a forgery. So on one hand, you suppose maybe if he really was feared enough or upset enough and wanted to avoid capture enough that he jumped to his death. That, yeah, maybe he wasn't writing with his best penmanship, but at the same time, you feel like there's something off about these, that the signatures, how much they match.
Okay, so I will share that with the group, including Jute, saying that I think that she should point this out to Eleander.
Like, you're almost wondering if there almost aren't too perfect given the circumstances.
Right, instead of being upset and potentially being a bit stressed and
Maybe rushed or stressed or more edgy, the hand of somebody who's ending it all, that this isn't a very deliberate and exact depiction as he wrote it out.
okay.
Now, you do remember that it occurs to you that the gnome Pansy Paperweight, who isn't exactly a friend of you guys, but it does flash back in your head that when you were dealing with the bank before, Pansy Paperweight is the one that House Kunderic Bank called in to verify the contracts because she was marked. She was a dragon marked of House Civis and has the mark of scribing. So you could perhaps consult with her if you wanted to in terms of either confirming or dismissing your suspicions, Kymir.
Okay.
If she was willing.
Yeah. Did try and apologize.
I think you did apologize, or Shaefira maybe apologized and then like stole from her immediately afterwards.
Sounds like me.
That's likely, yeah.
I feel there was something like that. Like you guys gave Pansy money to get her robes cleaned after you threw up on her. And
And
then
then
Shaefira
did,
immediately
yes.
pickpocketed.
Uh-huh.
I think that's how that went down.
I know I tried to apologize when we saw her at the bank.
So, anything else inside the house? You ready to return outside?
What about the balcony area? Have we been out on the balcony?
Yeah, you can go out on the balcony. Do a perception check. Or insight. Whichever's better.
Well, depending on how you roll.
Well, Kerithlana's rolled well enough for everyone. So, Kerithlana, you go out. You go out on the balcony. And you definitely don't see that there's any sign of struggle. You don't see much sign of anything.
Like it's been cleaned.
The doors to the balcony are unlocked, but you don't necessarily know if they should be locked. You don't see any signs of there being a struggle that you might think would be there if Gellen was pushed to his death. And you don't come across any kind of of fibers or any evidence or any CSI stuff.
So there's no evidence of scrape marks. It all looks.
You looked down over the side and you see where the party or the guards have hefted Gellen's body into a wagon now, and there's just the blood on the cobbles. But from what you can judge, it looks like he dropped at a reasonable place for someone who climbed over the side and jumped off the balcony.
Okay.
Still seems proper dodgy to me.
It seems convenient.
Yeah.
I reckon he was killed first and then chucked over.
Eleander Fireborn sees you guys up on the balcony and he calls out to you, "They're getting ready to cart him off. Do you want to see the body before they go?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you can come to the barracks."
Could you ask Pansy to come up, please? If she's still there.
Pansy Paperweight?
Yep.
And she's still there, so you see the guards go and speak to her. And you see her kind of exchange a look with the drow Venom Wind. And he kind of looks like, ugh. But then Venom Wind always looks kind of, ugh.
Well, yeah.
And
Venom.
Pansy walks towards the house, and she has that kind of, I'm saying kind of a lot as well today. She
I'm on
has
the
that,
balcony, can I
she
just go,
has that, are you going to hurl over the balcony?
No, just pretend.
Dry heave run?
Yeah. No,
But-
actually, she might run off. No.
Pansy has that, and she's a gnome, but she has that posture of a reluctant child being called into supper from playing outside. It's like every step is going through treacle, like she was resisting moving forward with every fiber of her being because she doesn't really want to comply, but she feels like she has to because the town watch is asking her.
Mm-hmm.
So you hear this clump, 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 clump up the stairs, and she's entered the house. And she's like, "Yeah, what do you want?"
Okay. So I know that we haven't got on. However, we really need your professional expertise in having a look at these, please. And then give her the 2 examples of texts. And ask her what conclusions she'd draw from them. Without leading her in any way, shape, or form.
She looks them from one to the other. "Do you want me to compare these for authenticity?"
If you wouldn't mind. You're the best person that we could think of to do this.
Well, if you want a house civis job, verifying authenticity, it could take some time.
How long do you need?
Maybe overnight.
That seems reasonable.
Okay, Jute, do we need to sign these out to House Civis?
Jute will be like, "Okay, we can do up some paperwork about this."
Okay, good plan. Make it so.
She's like, "Can we? I need to like clear it with Captain Fireborn. Can we kind of scoosh outside?" She's like trying to politely ask you to leave the building so she can go, because she doesn't want to leave you there, because she would be deserting her duty if she just left you there unattended, but she also wants to do what you said.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, I suppose we've pretty much covered everything in it.
So you guys make your way outside, and she runs up to Eleander Fireborn, and you see her explaining stuff, and he nods, briefly. And so she runs back and she says, "It's fine. It's released to House Civis."
Okay, thank you. I appreciate your help in this.
And Pansy's already she's already focused on this. So we're trained in certain documents, like for House Kundarak, for verifying their authenticity. Since this is an unknown quantity, it will take me a little bit longer to identify whether or not they are from the same source. But this seems to be an interesting pedilico. She's already like wandering off and ignoring your existence now, and she's looking at the two letters in front of her, and she's headed towards Sharkfin Bridge. And you hear her give this whistle, and you look over to Venomwin and his ears perk up.
He's a puppy dog.
And you see the drow kind of scurry across the docks after the gnome. Like, she's clearly the boss in this relationship. Or this business association.
Okay. Thank you.
So you have dispatched the letters to Pansy. She's going to examine them. The body is on the cart. It's getting ready to roll off to the west. Do you want to poke at anything?
Yep. How long's it been since he jumped?
You can do a medicine check.
Okay. Oh, that didn't. Let's try that. Oh,
And Eleander tells you that the other clerics who examine him think that he jumped during the night. And you can't discern anything that doesn't confirm that, or that would counter that. Everybody do perception checks.
The rogue.
So
is
the
a
three of
rogue.
you crawl up into the cart where Gellin Primewater's body has been kind of swathed in a little bit of shroud fabric. Shaefira gets a little bit grossed out by this, and she's kind of like, "Ew, I don't really want to mess with this," because they're bones sticking where bones shouldn't be sticking, and it's like kind of pulpy and gross, and I don't like it, and it's putting me off my jam. Kymir is kind of
Yeah.
similar. It's putting Kymir off his toast. But Kerithlana is like, "This is what I do." So she rummages into the fabric. She's shoving aside bones and fleshy stuff. And as she pokes around and kind of examines the body, she realizes Gellin Primewater isn't wearing a corset under his clothes. And that's where we're going to stop.
Dun, dun, dun.
That's it. Obviously wasn't him.
So we
Fantastic.
Cool.
so I think the next time we play is in 3 weeks. And I think that might be the last time we play this year. The 14th, is that still
Yep.
potentially groovy for everyone?
Hang on.
Yep.
14th. Yeah, we're away. Yeah, we're away the next day, but that's fine.
Okay, so we'll meet again on December 14th. And then after that, I think it will be January before we
Wow.
we frolic in the waters of Saltmarsh once more.
Yar.
Yarr!
Cool.
Awesome. Thank you.
Whee!
Thanks, Bonnie.
Thank you, everyone.
Interesting storyline. I feel like we should be some kind of crime show now.
Everybody should be wearing fedoras and have magnifying glasses.
Yes. And Cuban cigars.
Mm-hmm.
What?
You can lift them out of
Columbo?
Gellin Primewater's house.
Oh yeah.
Just one more thing.
Probably
That's
have.
actually who my Waterdeep Dragon Heist character was supposed to be based off of Columbo, but I was just so bad at role playing.
Oh.
But her
Oh,
name is Colombine. And she's called Bean for short. But she was supposed to be, and she was with the City Watch of Waterdeep. She was supposed to be like Columbo, but she's not really like Columbo because I'm bad.
No.
Well, Rachel decided on a new character last night, so if you ever do another campaign, she's sorted.
Eh?
She's
Did I? Was
sorted.
I drinking? I don't remember.
Yeah. You wanted a super posh one like from the Crown.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, somebody
Yeah,
from the
yeah.
Crown?
Yeah. I'll be super posh. The next one.
Oh, yes.
Oh, yeah, rather. Fuck off. Yeah, you know.
As you do.
As you do, yeah. Oh, dear. Yeah.
That's great.
So, look forward to that then, when the day comes.
If anything dire
Fantastic.
ever happens, the next time a ship has to be exploded and it doesn't go well,
Yeah, there we go.
Shaefira gets replaced with Queen Elizabeth.
with bits. Shirley Temple.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, everybody. And I won't wish you a happy Thanksgiving because you don't do that.
But you have a
Yeah.
good
Well,
Happy Turkey Day.
Be like, happy, we're so glad that the Yanks moved away.
oh,
No, it doesn't even matter anymore.
Oh, it's just-
everywhere's fucked up.
the entire world's just messed
happy
up. no matter
happy
what
election day to you guys.
people- Mm.
I hope it
Do you know
goes better than the worst case scenario.
No,
Oh.
I tell you what. Happy Black Friday.
Oh yeah, happy Black Friday to everybody.
Yeah.
Go buy all the things.
Oh, I intend.
Oh God, I'm taking a credit cards offer.
Oh, and good luck on Whiskey Santa. I hope you win.
Yes, that she needs look on.
Everybody
What?
win some whiskey.
I
Yeah.
did win 2 years ago, so
Yeah,
Was it
but-
I thought it was last year.
I thought you
It's
were
been
no.
so long.
it feels that.
Why
long.
can't you win every year?
Right,
That would
exactly.
be really nice, wouldn't it? But yeah, I am going to try and get because that Basil Hayden's looks really nice.
You
so I
have
am,
been very good, so I don't see why Whiskey Santa wouldn't reward you.
well. He's finicky.
All right, well, thank you, everybody.
You know,
Thank you.
thank
Have
you.
Very
a nice weekend or nice Sunday.
Yeah.
You too.
See you in a
Alright.
few
All right,
weeks.
guys.
Bye bye. Bye, Steve.
Ciao.
Bye, Steve.
Bye, Steve.